and yeah, get everything set up. Cool, let's make sure the stream is working. Hopefully my internet is better than it was yesterday. It kept on glitching out on YouTube. So let's have a look. Cool, right, we're in. Thanks for joining the stream. Signal's good, audio's good. Thank you very much. It's good to have you there, Mel and Steve. Thanks for joining. So yeah, just getting set up at the moment, and yeah, so we're doing a protest today outside Southampton University, and we're doing this on behalf of raising awareness for the animal testing that goes on here at the university. And so we've got a stall of people up with placards, and yeah, we're basically trying to get as many people to sign the petition, which is to ban animal testing at Southampton University, and to also raise awareness of exactly what goes on at the university in terms of the testing, because most students that go to the uni don't realise what is happening on campus. So yeah, that's why today we're going to try and give a lot of information to the public. We've got people with placards, we've got people with information leaflets, and we'll be trying to educate the public. So yeah, I'll be trying to reel off as many sort of statistics and things about animal testing that happens at the university and at universities all around the country. But yeah, specifically for Southampton University, so 11,500 animals were tested on last year in 2024. Predominantly they were mice, so over 90% of them were mice. And yeah, a lot of those mice ended up with severe, moderate and fatalities. So a lot of mice are killed for the testing. And it's basically such an old tradition in terms of what animal testing is, and the reason that we don't need it in today's society. We don't need to test on animals, like we don't need to exploit animals for food or for clothing. We don't need to test on them. So they also test on chicken embryos, they also test on fish, and yeah, they're predominantly here in Southampton, they do test on mice, and you can look up their statistics, but essentially they would genetically breed them for trying to mimic human diseases. So they would inject them and sort of genetically modify them to replicate things like Alzheimer's. They'll try and genetically modify them and insert cancer cells into them, which eventually kills the mice. And the issue of firstly is that we don't need to use animals. We don't need to exploit them for animal testing. It's an old, outdated method that was never even validated to start with. But not only that, is that animal testing in totality, 90 to 95% of animal tests that pass the animal testing fail in human clinical trials. So 9 times out of 10, any tests that were signed off on the animals end up failing for the human testing trials. So not only is it a waste of time, it also takes animals' lives unnecessarily. They're enslaving them, they're putting them in cages and doing awful, horrific tests on them. All in the name of science, when actually the science is ridiculous. So when we know that actually we have alternative methods that in 2025 can be a replacement for animal testing. So now we have things like organ on a chip, where it will mimic human cells. You get human lung on a chip, you can get gut on a chip, so lots of different organ on a chips that mimic the human cells and human biology. And that's a crucial difference, because a lot of the animals that are tested on are not the same species as humans. So like I said, even if they're passing tests at a level on a mice or whatever other animals are being tested on, they don't replicate to humans. 90 to 95% of the times they fail. And when we look at the differences between humans and animals, so for example, humans, we love chocolate, we eat chocolate. You give chocolate to a dog, that is toxic for them. Yet we test on dogs. Yet how are we trying to replicate that same science when chocolate is toxic for dogs, yet we're testing on dogs for human solutions? Similarly, we're testing on thousands of mice at this university when mice can't vomit. Humans can vomit, mice can't vomit. So how can we take those findings and try and replicate them to humans? Similarly as well, for example, cats. Cats are allergic, and basically paracetamol is toxic for cats, yet we as humans, it is fine for. And then also another example is penicillin. So penicillin is toxic to guinea pigs, yet for humans it's okay. And the crucial difference here is then all the differences between the different species. Why are we testing on animals to try and get solutions for us as a human species? Surely it makes more sense to test on human tissue and human body parts, not animal body parts. And that is basically why we're trying to raise awareness of that. They basically have all the alternatives that exist today. But bear in mind all the animal tests that, some of them are 100 years old. The LD50 test, which is a lethal dose testing, where they would test up to 50% of all the animals. So for example, mice, they'll test on thousands of mice until 50% of that population gets the lethal dose. And that is when they're killed. And they're trying to take that and replicate that for humans. This test is nearly 100 years old. In 2027, that is 100 years old. But now we have these other solutions like the organ on a chip technology. We have 3D modeling, we have computer modeling, and we also have human tissues and human cells that we can test on. And that is consensual and ethical. A lot of people, organ donors, for example, you can choose as a human if you would like your body parts, essentially, to be tested on in the future. That is the only ethical way that can be done, because animals can't basically, give their consent to being put in a cage, tortured, and often killed. So yeah, this is why we're here today. So behind me is we've got a lot of activists trying to engage the public at Southampton Uni. It's an open day, so we've got lots of students coming on campus, and we want to educate them about the world of animal testing. And like always on my live streams, if you've got any questions about animal testing, please do put them in the chat, and any other questions you've got, I will do my best to answer them. And also, if you can just double tap the screen to help the algorithm, if you can like it and subscribe to my channel, yeah, much appreciated. It helps boost this video to more and more people. Yes, good point. Thanks, Mel, Steve. So yeah, in the video description, there is a link to a petition, and the petition is to get Southampton University to ban animal testing. So we want the 11,500 animals that are being tested on at the university to be banned. We want it banned globally. We want it banned in every university in the country and every lab that experiments and tests and does research on animals. But specifically, this campaign that we're doing today is focusing on Southampton Uni. And so yeah, in the video description, if you hit the 3 dots, I think if you hit the 3 dots in the video and hit description, you'll see a petition there that will, yeah, you can sign the petition. So what is that you banning? So we're asking Southampton University to ban animal testing. So we're asking them to stop the 11,500 animals being tested on every year, because it's unethical, it's immoral, and it's also, the information is invalid. We shouldn't be testing on other species for solutions for our own species. The most accurate and ethical way is to test on our own species and look at the technology that we have today, looking at organ on a chip and looking at the other alternative methods, the non-animal new methods that exist today. So yeah, please do sign the petition. The petition is in the video description. And thanks for all those that have already thanks for all those that have already signed the petition. Hopefully we'll get that number up so that the Southampton University can take the petition seriously. But yeah, I'm just curious in the stream, do you know how many animals get tested on each year in the UK? And do you know how many animals get tested on at these universities? A lot of people that go to these universities don't realise what is happening in their science labs under the name of research. So universities and what happens at the animal testing. So 50% of animal testing in the country happens at universities, 50%. And of that, the majority of all animal testing at the universities is under experimental basic research. So this isn't mandatory, this isn't legal, it's not a required regulated test. This is done out of scientists and professors and students taking tests on animals out of the name for basic research. So if it's basic research, experimental research, this means that it's not necessary, it's not regulated, it's not mandated. This is just people in a lab wanting to test out hypotheses. So there's a question there, what's the alternative we can do? So depending on the type of test, there are humane and ethical alternatives for those tests. So instead of taking and putting diseases into mice, instead of taking their bones and taking out their organs, we have technology now. For example, if you look up organ on a chip technology, basically what it does is it replicates human cells. So there's many different, obviously, organs in the human body. You can take a portion of what that is and you have it on a chip with other like cell tissue. So you're replicating a whole dish of that organ, what happens in the human body. And that is what can be used to test for drugs, whether it's for other products, household products. All those can be tested on proper human tissues, not animal tissues. So yeah, organ on chip technology exists. We've also got 3D models that make and try and replicate and simulate what would happen in the human anatomy. But we also have nowadays, technology, we're in 2025, we have computer modeling. Computer modeling is really effective at mimicking and creating test scenarios based on human cells and human organs, and yeah, testing those products and how the outcomes would be. But yeah, and then I guess the last other solution that I can think of at the moment is the fact that humans can donate their own tissue. They can donate organs. You have organ donor cards. You can donate tissue to specific tissue centres. You can look it up and find your local one. And it seems so obvious that for testing on our own species is the most effective and the most moral. Yet all around the country at different universities and in different labs, we are testing on animals, non-human animals. Thousands of mice are being killed at this university in Southampton every single year. And it's not just Southampton. There's a website called Universities Challenged. You can check out that website and you can check out in the UK which universities test on animals. It's got a whole map and you can type in a university. If you're curious about your local university, if you went to a university in the past, you can see which of your universities tested on animals. And some do, varying degrees. Manchester is a huge place for testing on animals. So yeah, please do sign the petition, and we want Southampton University to basically ban animal testing completely. We don't need it. Southampton University and other universities should be at the cutting edge of technology. They should be looking at the most humane and updated research. So not using tests that are nearly 100 years old. We're not putting mice into water tanks and doing the drop test. We're not injecting them with diseases. We're not genetically breeding them. We have humane alternatives. So why don't we do that? And I know a lot of the people watching this live stream obviously won't have direct interactions or involvement with animal testing. But what you can do, if you go to your local university, you can email your local university, you can sign your local petitions. And this one today, obviously the link is in the description, to ban animal testing at Southampton University. There's a question from Daniel Molina. Are you vegan? Yes, I'm vegan. I've been vegan for nearly 5 years, speaking up for all forms of animal exploitation and animal injustices. Are you talking about university animal care? No, talking about university animal testing, animal experiments. So in laboratories all around the campus, in the science facilities, they are testing on thousands of mice, fish, chicken embryos and tadpoles at this specific university. And we're calling for an end to it. It's outdated and it's unethical. There's a comment, I don't believe you. What don't you believe? What don't you believe? I mean, you can look up all these statistics online. You don't always have to take my word for it, but you can look up that 90 to 95% of animal tests that pass the animal testing criteria fail human clinical trials. And I can give you a really good example of why this is really important for human health. So there was a research study that occurred, and you can look this up. Basically what happened was they went through all the animal trials and it passed, with flying colours. The animals were not harmed in any way or form at all. So they introduced the humans to then test out the product. And these humans were all fully fit and healthy, and they were given basically the solution that was tested on animals. There was 6 people that then went through the human trials, and now they're with lifelong horrendous conditions. They lost limbs, they lost fingers and toes, they had respiratory diseases, and their lives are now affected for the rest of their lives. Even though their tests showed up, you know, with flying colours, all the green lights from the animal testing perspective, they were tested on humans, and now these humans are now suffering with lifelong conditions. Again, because we're different species, just because it works for one species doesn't mean it will work for another species. And this is all, you know, could be new information, and a lot of people don't realise this. But also, if I was to flip the scenario around as well, so there was a really critical drug that is which is used in the pharmaceutical industry now, that was tested on animals, and it failed the animal tests. And because of that, obviously it would have failed the animal tests, it wouldn't have gone to human clinical trials. However, that was then basically they took the research, they stopped the testing on animals, and actually that same product, that solution, was a perfect fit for humans. Even though it failed all of the animal tests, that was a critical drug for humans. So what is your solution for not having to test on animals? So you don't need to test on animals because, well, firstly, they're different species. You cannot replicate a mice to a human. We have different bodily anatomy, biology, and functions. So the alternatives exist are organ-on-a-chip technology, where you're using human tissues, human cells, to produce human-related responses. We have ethical alternatives. So to do that, we've got, yeah, as I said, organ on a chip. You've got computer modeling, we've got 3D models, but also we've got the idea that we can just use actual human tissue, actual human organs that have been basically donated ethically by humans. You can go to a tissue bank and donate it, because that tissue is going to be far more accurate and valid than testing on a mice in a laboratory at a university. My twins joined the chat. Good to see you. So there's a comment here that says, that sounds very expensive. What's very expensive is the millions of pounds funded by the government to fund animal tests, when 90 to 95% of them don't even fail human clinical trials. The amount of investment and funding from even at universities, why are we trying to look at solutions for testing on animals when we have solutions that exist for testing on humans and using human tissues, ethical and moral ways? So we know the alternatives exist. We've got humane methods, proper humane methods, not like humane slaughter. This is properly humane and ethical, and that's what we're calling on Southampton Uni to do. So if you do check out the description in this video, you can sign that petition and ask Southampton Uni to ban animal testing. So yeah, any questions, feel free to pop them into the chat. I'd happily try and answer some of them. But yeah, so behind me we've got a lot of the activists just engaging with the students and just giving them some information, some leaflets about what happens on their university campus, because a lot of people just won't realise. Do you have anything else to do with your time? I mean, what better way than trying to speak up for the innocent animals that are being tested on, killed, given cancer cells? You know, speaking up on behalf of those animals that deserve to live free and not encaged and tortured. So it's incredible how many comments that are just for people that are clearly supporting animal torture. Why would you want to torture an animal? So I've just, skipped to the bottom of the chat. So yeah, any questions or comments that come through, please do drop them in. As I said, look at the video description. There's a petition for banning animal testing at Southampton University. It's the natural order of things. What is natural about genetically breeding mice and other animals in laboratories to then torture them, take their limbs, inject them with cancer cells? Not sure that that's, how did you say, the natural order of things? I wouldn't say that's natural order, would you? Hey Laura, thanks for joining. So, yeah, I'll just explain again exactly what we're doing. So we've got activists here outside Southampton University. We've got an event happening in collaboration with Southampton Animal Action, in collaboration with Animal Aid, in collaboration with Vivisection Exposed. And we're giving information out to students, staff, anyone else on campus to raise awareness of the animal testing that goes on at the facilities here on site. And the main ask we've got today is to ask Southampton Uni to ban animal testing. So we've got a petition going, and we want as many people to sign that petition, and we want the animals to not be tested on at this university, but also obviously all around the world as well. And at this university in Southampton, there's 11,500 animals tested on in 2024. And you can look this up. If you just type in Southampton University animal testing, you can see a breakdown of what animals they test on. You can see a breakdown of the severity of those tests. So you can see how many were killed, how many have severe conditions now, how many have moderate conditions now. And yeah, you can look at the breakdown of what they do and why they do it. But the fact is that 50% of animal testing happens at universities, and it comes under basic research. So these are tests that are not mandated, not regulated, not legal requirements. These are to satisfy a hypothesis by a researcher or a lecturer at universities. So there's a question here, how would you like the testing to be done? Like, how should they do it? So the alternatives do exist. We have humane, ethical alternatives to animal testing. As I've mentioned, there's solutions that use human tissue cells to replicate solutions for humans. That is the most valid and ethical choice, because we're testing on, at the moment, on animals. You're testing on mice, you're testing on rabbits, you're testing on dogs that have very different bodily anatomies to and biologies to human beings. As I said before, you know, we as humans, we love and usually eat chocolate, but you give chocolate to a dog and that is toxic. Yet we test on dogs to try and give us human solutions. It doesn't make sense. We should be testing on human tissues and human and humane methods that don't involve the use of animals. So yeah, if you look up organ-on-chip technology, if you look up 3D models, if you look up computer modeling, these are all solutions that exist that are using human tissue cells and 2025 technology, not 100-year-old technology to test on animals. And I've seen a comment about costly. So obviously the government and the universities fund this research. So the government pay millions of pounds into testing and research, but also the universities, funded by however the universities are funded, they obviously allocate the funds to these facilities. So if we can reallocate those funds, instead of the millions of pounds being spent and funded into animal tests, we can just reallocate that funds into testing for humane alternatives. And if you want some real solid examples of these humane ethical alternatives that I've been mentioning, there's a company called XLR8. It's XLR8. They're a completely vegan testing company that never use animals, and they produce solutions to basically the equivalents of these animal tests. So the LD50 test, which I briefly mentioned, the lethal dose 50 test, is where they will test a substance until 50% of the animals in that test substance die. So they would keep testing until 50% of the population die, and that's known as the lethal dose. This test is nearly 100 years old. And so basically, that LD50 test now has a humane alternative. So Accelerate, this company I've just mentioned, have created an alternative called AccuTox, which is a humane method of doing this lethal dose testing without using animals. look at the privileged student who doesn't need a part-time job, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I'm not a student, not a part-time job. This is a group of us all here today speaking up on behalf of the animals. We're here to get Southampton University to ban animal testing. 11,500 animals are being tested on at this university. Primarily, I think over 90% of them are on mice. So yeah, please do sign the petition. There's a link in the description. If you hit the 3 dots in the video, go to description, you can see the petition to ban animal testing at Southampton University. But also, if there's universities near you, please do write to their Vice-Chancellor, write to their research unit and ask them to ban it. And you can see a website called Universities Challenged. If you type in Universities Challenged Animal Age, you will see a map of all the universities in the country, and you can see which ones do and don't test on animals. And yeah, hopefully this is educational for you. This is something that is going to raise awareness and realise that there are far more humane methods than testing on animals. Again, a question, are you vegan? Yes, I am vegan. My morals and ethics are aligned. You know, I care about animals being tested on, but I also care about animals being slaughtered for food and drink. I care about all forms of animal exploitation and injustice, and that's why I speak up on all those reasons. So, yeah, obviously, we want to speak up for as many animal injustices that happen around the world and in this country and at the universities, whether it is for food, whether it is for clothing, whether it's for entertainment, and whether it's for animal testing. Right, so I've just skipped to the bottom again. So if you've got any questions, I can try and yeah, answer them. So the university, obviously we're engaging them in alternatives, but the fact is that because these tests that happen right now in these universities, they're all basic and experimental. They're not legal, they're not mandated. They're literally there because a scientist, a professor, or a student wants to test a hypothesis out. For example, they want to say, oh, if I inject this mouse with this disease, how would it react in this, an X, Y, Z scenario? These are all hypothesis, experimental-based testing. This is not legal, it's not mandated, it's not regulatory. So they don't need to do it. We can introduce and try and ask the university, obviously, to adopt the humane alternative methods. But ultimately, because they're not needed, we can stop it. We can stop it completely today. We don't need to experiment on these animals. And yeah, so I'll quickly explain again for those that have rejoined the room. So we're at the University of Southampton in the UK, and we're here. There's a table set up with placards, with leaflets, with resources, and a group of activists to call on Southampton University to ban animal testing. Animal testing is not necessary. It's outdated, it was never validated. 90 to 95% of animal tests that happen fail human clinical trials. And that is because different animal species don't replicate to human species. So because of that, you know, we're testing on mice that don't replicate to humans. So we're saying we don't need to do animal testing anymore, and therefore we can use humane, ethical alternatives. We can use the technology now that we have that is ethical and does not include the involvement of animals. So those alternatives exist. You can. I mean, you know, you've all got Google, I'm sure, or ChatGPT or something. You could look up whatever animal test that you may even have knowledge up. You could look up the humane alternative, the one that doesn't use animals, non-animal methods. So you can look up all of those and realise there are so many solutions to that. And I've mentioned a few already. Those organ-on-a-chip technology is absolutely fascinating of how it can be done. It replicates the human organs, so you can get lung on a chip, gut on a chip, all this technology that uses the organ, but also the cells in a 3D, like a chip model. And you can put those through test simulations that test, obviously, for the human outcomes that test on the human species. And as I mentioned before, and I keep mentioning it, like, we're testing on animals that don't have the same physiology and biology as humans. We're testing on dogs at the moment. MBR acres, if you're aware of MBR acres, we're testing on 2,000 beagle puppies a year. And if you give chocolate to a dog, that is toxic, but we as humans are absolutely fine with it. Mice can't vomit. Paracetamol is toxic for cats. Penicillin is toxic for guinea pigs. All these differences in species, yet we're testing on these same species to try and give us human results. It doesn't make sense. It's a waste of time, it's a waste of money, but it's also the fact that these animals are losing their lives for it. Animals are being killed in these laboratories. And you can look up these statistics of how many animals die at Southampton University in these laboratories. And you can look up how many basically end up, if they don't die, how many now have life-threatening conditions for the rest of their life. And yeah, basically we're calling on Southampton Uni to ban it. And there's a petition in the link to this video description. So animal testing is invalid, it's outdated, we don't need to do it. You think in 2025, the technology that exists, we should be on the cutting edge of new solutions. And the fact that you can also basically do testing on humans as well. So for example, you can be an organ donor, you can donate tissue to tissue banks, and that will give you far more accurate and reliable results than testing on a different species. We don't require animal testing. It's invalid, and as I said, 90 to 95% of them, 90 to 95% of animal testing fails human clinical trials anyway. 9 times out of 10, they are useless for human studies. And as I said before, the test that even failed on animal testing was actually suitable for humans. So it just shows that it's completely redundant and unnecessary. So yeah, what are your thoughts on animal testing? Do you have a local university near you? And if you do, please do check out what they do at those universities. But yeah, if you're able to double tap the screen, it really helps push this video out to more people. And if you haven't already, feel free to subscribe to my channel and see more videos like this, often advocating out in the streets for various types of animal exploitation. So yeah, please do subscribe and like this video. And also in the video description, there is the link to the petition. There is the link to the Southampton University petition to ban animal testing. And that is the reason why we're here today, and why all of us activists are here today, is to ban animal testing. So yeah, thank you very much for those who have already signed it. And please do share it as well. If you've got any friends, family, we want to get that petition number up to as many people as possible to get Southampton University to really take this issue seriously. So this is basically a university in the UK. It's in Southampton University. There's two universities in Southampton. There's Solent University and University of Southampton. We're specifically talking about the University of Southampton. And if you Google University of Southampton animal testing, you can see the breakdown of all the data and the animals that they test on for the past few years. So you can look up the statistics of which animals and how many of them go through animal tests in 2024. And you can look up the severity of those animals, how many animals die in the laboratories here at the university. So there's a comment here, it's required and valid practice, there is no alternative. Animals are extremely close to us genetically and would be unethical to test on humans. So you're saying it's invalid, there's no alternatives, and it's unethical. So firstly, animal tests are invalid. 90 to 95% fail human clinical trials. What was the second point? There's no alternative. There are alternatives. There's organ-on-a-chip technology. There's 3D models. There are computer models and simulations, and there's also using human tissue. Many alternatives. And I said, look up a company called XLR8. XLR8. They are a completely vegan testing company that never use animals. They have created and been funded for research to replace animal tests. Look up the solution called AccuTox. That is a direct replacement for the LD50 test, replacing the test that was on animals and is now done humanely. I see so many. Venom 777, answer the question, why do you have 2 microphones? To be honest, I like something to hold, but also if someone wants to engage in conversation like I do in many of my outreaches, it picks up both sounds, so that's why. Thanks for the comment, you can stop putting that now. Thank you very much for signing the petition, thank you very much, appreciate that. Thank you for the kind comments. So yeah, please do sign the petition. The link is in the description to this live video. And the more and more people that we can get to sign the petition, the better. And I can keep saying that animal testing is outdated, it's unethical. 11,500 animals tested here in Southampton. And this is just one university. There's, I think, over 70 other universities in the country that test on animals. And I guess you could then ask yourself, I mean, actually, I'll put a poll up and then just see what the consensus is. Right, so I've put the poll up. Move that over a bit. Cool, so yeah, I just was curious to see in the chat, are you against animal testing? What's the consensus? Animals that are genetically modified, genetically bred, inserted with cancers, animals that are killed in laboratories, under the name of science, under the name of unregulated, unethical, and basically they're not even legally required to test on them. Comment here, finally a process that I can get behind, but remember, if we are treated our own human beings so bad, what makes you think people care about animal testing? I mean, I understand your point. There's, the way human beings are, we can basically advocate and speak up for the injustices that we can, and obviously animals can't speak up for themselves in the way that we can speak up for them. Animals are forced into these laboratories, they're tortured, and we as activists and individuals have to speak up and be against that. So it's almost a 50-50 split, which is absolutely mental, to be honest. So those that aren't against animal testing, why are you for it? When I've already explained that we have humane alternatives, we don't need to test on animals, they're invalid, they're inhumane. Why would you want to put animals specifically into laboratories for experiments and torture? Why would you want that? Yeah, exactly, Mel. See, people are crazy if you think testing on animals is okay. How would you feel, if we flip the question, how would you feel if you were in a cage and you were being inserted with cancer diseases, having your limbs taken from you, and then ultimately killed or drowned in these experiments that they do to animals? Yeah, I realised the image is flipped, so it says, end animal testing, I support better science. So the fact, again, like all of the research and all of the money invested from governments and universities, spending on species tests, on other animal species tests that aren't can't even say that word now, replicated to human solutions. Why are we wasting all this time and money when we could be focusing on human-specific solutions? Surely that's a more effective way to test on animals, to test on substances, and we don't need to test on animals. So yeah, I'm going to close that poll. That's interesting, almost 50-50, so 52%, so slightly more people are not against animal testing. That is kind of baffling to me. If you haven't watched anything, please do look up some videos of what happens to animals in these laboratories. It is absolutely disgusting what they do to animals. You know, if you haven't heard of another test called the forced swim test or the drop test. So mice or rats are basically dropped into water, and until they basically struggle to try and swim, and they basically time how long it takes for the mice or the rats to give up and stop struggling and drown to death. That's what the test is. You're literally torturing an animal, you're drowning an animal for the sake of an unnecessary experiment. So yeah, we want Southampton University, as well as all others in the world, in the country, to stop testing on animals unnecessarily. It's not needed, it's not required. We don't need to do it. So there's a comment, you're acting like every case is the same, we only test on animals when needed, you honestly just ignore the actual facts. So you're saying that I ignore the facts, but I'm giving you the facts. I'm giving you the statistics. And again, you don't have to take my word for it. Have a look on Google, or a reputable source anyway. But 9 times out of 10, these tests that are basically tested on animals fail human clinical trials. So when we know that percentage, that high percentage rate is completely redundant for humans, why would we do that? What would be the point? So if you could double tap the screen, like the video, and subscribe to my channel as well. It massively helps boost this video to reach even more people. You know, the video today has already hit maximum room capacity a couple of times, so we want more and more people to see videos like this. Yeah, I need to get my subscriber number up, and so more people can be aware of the issues that I talk about. Obviously today, talking about animal testing. Yesterday, I was standing outside in front of a meat van on a high street and speaking to the public and engaging in live debates about what we do to animals for food and for drink and for clothing. And I guess it all comes down to the top level reason of we don't need to look at animals and try and get a use from them. We don't need to try and exploit them and use them for whatever it is, whether it is for food, for drinks, for clothing, for entertainment. We don't need to do it. We don't need to objectify and commodify animals for our own benefit. We don't need to do it for whatever reason. We have alternatives for whatever the situation is that we currently use animals for. Right, so I've just skipped to the bottom of the comments. So yeah, any questions that you've got, please do put them in the chat. You know, I see silly comments I'm not going to read out, but genuine questions I'm happy to respond to. Says you have an opinion, well done, but you have no logic to back it up. I mean, what of my reasonings have not been logical? We are humans, we are a human species. The statistics show that testing on animal species is invalid and ineffective for human-specific solutions. And we have human-specific solutions that exist. We have organ-on-a-chip technology, we have 3D models, we have computer models, we have human tissue, all these that are human-specific solutions to get products that we need. We don't need to test on animals. You know, you can look up this stuff yourself. You don't always have to take my word for it, but you know, my logic is pretty straightforward in the fact that things that are toxic to animals might not be toxic to us. Similarly, the things that are not toxic to us can be toxic to animals. I'll always give the example of the chocolate. You know, humans love chocolate. You give chocolate to a dog, it's toxic for them, it can kill them. Yet we test on dogs to give us human solutions. It doesn't make sense. Alex Activism is a vegan. Yes, correct. I am vegan. Obviously speaking up on many injustices that happen to animals all around the world for food, drink, clothing, entertainment. And today what we're obviously advocating for is to ban animal testing. So the question, would you rather we test on humans? So, you know, I'll partially answer that by saying yes, but but in the way that we can test on human tissue. So we can get, you can go to your tissue bank and donate your tissue, your organs. You have organ donor cards. But also we can use human cells that are basically then put through the technology and simulated of testing. We can use human tissues because that is the most relevant, the most reliable and valid for human solutions. Comment here, chocolate isn't that much toxic on dogs and mice are more tested on. I mean, if you don't think chocolate is toxic to dogs, that's very dangerous, and especially if you have a dog, that is seriously concerning. Do not give your dog chocolate. They should be taken to a vet immediately, and they'll be in, life-threatening conditions. So, and yeah, it just reiterates the point that things that are okay for humans are not okay for animals, and sometimes that's vice versa as well. So a couple of comments what we're protesting about. So we're at Southampton University. There's a group of activists behind us basically giving out leaflets, placards, and trying to educate the public on animal testing. So 11,500 animals that are tested on at this university, and we're asking the public to sign a petition to ban animal testing. In the link to this video, there is a petition, and you can go and sign that, and you can basically join the cause of getting animal testing banned. This is just one university, but over 50% of all animal testing that happens in the UK happens at universities. So we're here to speak up for those animals and, engaging the public, as you can see, going through behind. We're giving them lots of leaflets, information, and just raising awareness of what happens to animals. This guy eats bacon 100%. I eat vegan bacon. Vegan bacon is good. Bacon from a pig is horrendous. Pigs are 6 months old and they're forced into gas chambers. They'll suffocate and they'll burn their lungs, they burn their eyes, they burn from the insides out. At 6 months old, they're forced into a gas chamber for bacon. A class 1 carcinogen. It's not necessary, just have vegan bacon. So yeah, what questions do you have? There's people asking me, can I ask a question? Put the question in, I'll try and pick it up. What are you debating today? So yeah, debating, not debating, raising awareness of animal testing that happens here at Southampton University. We want animal testing to be banned. It's unethical, it's immoral, it's invalid. We don't need to do it. And if you were in the animal's position, I'm pretty sure you wouldn't want to be injected with cancer cells, have your limbs torn from you, and ultimately killed and drowned for the reason of experimentation. So question, what animals are they testing on? So if you look up University of Southampton animal testing, you can actually see a breakdown of the different species of animals that they test here at the university, 11,500, but specifically over 90% of the animals here are mice. So thousands of mice are tested here on experimental reasons. So this isn't mandated, this isn't regulatory, this is all under hypothesis of researchers, depending on the cases that they're looking at. But examples at universities are, for example, the forced swim test or the drop test, where mice are basically put into water and they will see the time it takes for them to basically swim to try and get rescue, to go up onto a little platform, and to see how long it takes them to stop struggling and then eventually drown. And this is to, I believe, to try and find solutions for antidepressants. It's totally barbaric, it's totally unnecessary. We have humane alternatives to all of these testing. But they also test on fish, they also test on chicken embryos, but it's primarily, as I said, thousands of mice. And also a huge portion of those mice end up with moderate, severe, and basically the worst category is the animals die. If they don't die, they're left with lifelong conditions and illnesses. So yeah, we would like everyone to sign the petition. There's a petition link in the description. Hopefully that link works. I did test it earlier this morning, but yeah, if you have signed the petition from the link in the description, please do put in the chat if it does work. So there's a question from, I think, Isaiah. You've been tagging me quite a lot. I'm just trying to scroll up and find your conversation, your comment about people who get life in prison, should they contribute to society by becoming test subjects? We should be kind and compassionate through all forms of life, right? So everything should be consensual, and it should be compassionate and humane. And we have the solutions that exist that don't exploit people, that don't exploit animals. So that surely is the appropriate solution for testing. We have humane alternatives, testing that is consensual, testing that uses human tissue if donated, or these other models that we've created. I've just gone to the bottom of the chat again. Question here, animal rights activists never talk about halal. What question do you have about halal? Is there a question? I'm happy to talk about it. Or I can actually answer that question very quickly in that, yes, I'm of course against any form of slaughter, whether it's halal or not halal. All slaughterhouses should be closed down and banned. We don't need to put animals into gas chambers and have their throats sliced in slaughterhouses. Hopefully that answers your question. It doesn't matter how you kill an animal, the fact is the animal shouldn't be killed. Pretty simple. Yes, good point. So Mel Steve just commented, Joey Carbstrong did an investigation. So if you go on YouTube and type in Joey Carbstrong halal exposed or halal slaughterhouse, you can see a video of exactly what goes on. A few people saying I'm not answering the question. You know, I'm trying to answer as many questions as I can. There's a lot of comments coming through the chat, so you know, if I have missed it, feel free to repost it. There's a comment here. I work as an activist in the US, and I believe animal testing needs to be banned because it's not necessary or needed. 100% completely agree with you. Yeah, it's not needed, and yeah, we should all be speaking up as much as we can, whether it's, you know, if you can physically be outside a university like we're here today, excellent. And if you're not, you can still do stuff online. You can email your local universities, you could email the Vice Chancellor, you could email the research unit. But very simply, like we've got a petition going at Southampton University, so you can just sign that petition and you can see exactly, or we're trying to get as many people as possible to sign the petition, and then you can see that that petition will then raise more awareness at the university and have those conversations. Hey Jake, thanks for joining, good to see you. Yeah, thanks for everyone who's probably recently joined the chat. Yeah, please do like this video and subscribe to my channel. You can see many more debate videos that I'll be doing and live streaming, and also it helps boost this video to reach more and more people. You know, as I said earlier, the room got into capacity, so you know, more subscribers means more people getting to see the awareness that it deserves, and hopefully getting more people to sign these petitions. How are you going to test medication? I wouldn't be able to breathe without animal testing. So we have, as I've explained, we have other alternatives to testing on animals. We have humane, ethical ways to test on products that don't involve animals. So yeah, any questions you've got about animal testing, I can try and answer them, or about animals in general, you know. A lot of people have been asking in the chat if I'm vegan. Yes, 100% vegan. I'm against all forms of exploitation to animals, whether it's for food, for clothing, for entertainment, for testing, whatever it might be. We've got to speak up for the animals because they don't deserve to be enslaved and exploited for human benefit, and specifically for testing. You know, a lot of these students that are walking past have no idea what happens at their university, and we're here to speak up for that. Comment here, when will animal testing be banned in the UK? That is a very good question, of which I'd like to say very soon. So the government are actually, the Labour government are rolling out hopefully next month, a roadmap to phasing out animal testing. We're anticipating that they're going to stick to their sort of criteria of the 3 R's, as they call it, which is to basically replace and refine and reduce. We only want replacement. So they'll most likely lay out a roadmap of how they're going to phase it out and what sort of tests are going to be phased out first, for example, and we'll be basically trying to advocate to the government and get them to replace animal tests as soon as possible, get them to reallocate their funding from animal tests into humane alternatives. Let's comment here, stop lying. What exactly am I lying about? I'd love you to clarify that. You know, everything I'm saying is factually correct. You could look up the studies, you can look up references, do your own research, but the fact that 90 to 95% of animal tests fail human clinical trials, animals are being tortured in laboratories, animals die in laboratories, they're inserted with cancers, that is all factually correct. So yeah, please do put any comments in the chat. I'll just get back to the bottom, trying to have a look at them all. So yeah, it's interesting that I did the poll earlier and only about 50-50 were for and against animal testing. It's kind of baffling that people are still, you know, pro animal testing. They still like it. I don't understand why, because if you were in their position, if you were in a cage in a laboratory, you know, having things injected into your eyes, into your limbs, having your body parts taken from you, being drowned to death, I'm pretty sure you would have a problem with that. And thanks, Mel and Steve and Jake and everyone else in the comments who is responding to the comments that I can't get around to. Always really appreciate your support, so thank you very much for being here. There's a comment here, mind your business, I'll eat what I want. So the problem with that mindset is I'll do what I want, but the problem is there's victims in that choice. You know, you doing whatever you want means that animals have to die, and doesn't have to be that way. You can be kind to animals instead. We don't need to use them and exploit them for whatever it is. So please do, sign the petition. There's a link in this video description. Please sign the petition to get Southampton University to ban animal testing. That is what we need. We need all universities to ban it. But yeah, obviously we're here to make a presence today of animal testing. And for those that are against animal testing, those that think it's immoral, I agree with you. Those same people in this chat, if you could put in the comments if you're against animal testing but you're not vegan. I'm curious to see how many people are not vegan but are against animal testing. So if animal testing can save human lives, I'm in favour. Not all animal testing can be replaced with the technology we have at this point in time. So again, it's misinformation, and obviously that's done for a reason. The industries, the information out there, there are alternatives that exist, and we need the research and investment into these alternatives. But the fact that you're saying that alternatives don't exist, but the tests that do exist today, the animal tests, they're not validated, they're not replicable, they're basically a waste of time. You're saying we don't have an alternative to something that's already useless, something that's already 90 to 95% ineffective. So instead, we should be looking at all the solutions that do exist today that use non-animal methods, and look at the solutions of investing into new solutions as well. Humane solutions, ethical solutions, consensual solutions. protest for, Nandy's question, what protest for? The protest is against animal testing here at Southampton University. We're trying to encourage students, staff to write to the Vice-Chancellor and sign the petition to get animal testing banned at this university. 11,500 animals are tortured here every single year, predominantly mice, where they are injected with cancers, they are genetically bred to mimic human diseases, and ultimately they have severe health conditions and end up dying in these laboratories. And this is all under the name of experimental research. This is research that is not regulated, this is research that is not mandated, and is not a legal requirement. This is to satisfy a hypothesis by researchers and students and professors at the university. So yeah, question, what's an alternative to animal testing? So we have multiple alternatives to animal testing that exist today, non-animal methods, humane methods. So organ-on-chip technology, you can look this up because there's a lot of information about it. Organ-on-chip technology that mimics human organs. You can have lung on a chip, gut on a chip, other human organs on a chip surrounded by cell tissue that mimics the human biology. And you can run those simulations and tests that gives you far more accurate, valid, reliable, and ethical responses. But you've also got other solutions. You know, we're in 2025, we've got so many sophisticated computer models that do these simulations, 3D models, and also we can use human tissue. You can go to your local tissue bank, you can donate your organs. So we have basically samples of human tissues and human organs that can give us results for human solutions, rather than testing on species that don't replicate their results to the human species. Because we are not the same as mice, we are not the same as rats, we are not the same as fish. It doesn't make sense to test on animals that don't give us the results for humans. And even if it did, it's not ethical, it's not fair that we would put animals through that torture when we have these humane methods that exist. Oh, you off? Yes, see you Thursday. Good to see you. Thank you so much.
Oh.
Did you finish all the leaflets?
Almost. I must have handed out about 300, I think.
Oh, amazing. Awesome.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. Oh, good. Yeah, and see you Thursday.
Yes.
Yeah, you both coming. Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
no worries. We'll do that.
Cool. Yeah, I'll chat to you more. But yeah, thanks for
check
coming
it.
along. Yeah, see you later. Bye bye. So yeah, there's some of our obviously activists here. We're here all day today, trying to get as many students as possible. It's an open day as well, so there's quite a lot of footfall on the campus. And yeah, we're trying to engage students, staff, prospective students, whoever it is, to realise that on their campus, you know, in their science labs, is animals being tested on. And it's unnecessary, it's cruel, and it doesn't need to be done. And yeah, if you could subscribe to my channel, much appreciate it. It gets this video out to more people. And yeah, if you could double tap the screen to like it, appreciate that as well. And yeah, thanks to a few people in the chat for answering some of the comments and questions. Yeah, really appreciate that, because there's a lot of comments coming through. So yeah, I've just scrolled to the bottom of the chat, and yeah, happy to pick up any new questions that come in. So there's a question here, how does testing on a lung chip tell you how meds will affect the rest of the body? I think he needs to go back to his lesson. So the lung on a chip is so I was seeing another question come through. So the lung on chip is just an example of an organ on a chip technology that can be used. You can use various organs, and you can also use a combination of organs. So this organ on chip technology, you can basically, depending on the tests that need to be done, you can mimic the human tissues, the human organs, to give you human-specific responses. So yeah, it doesn't have to be lung or gut, whatever it is. If you look up organ-on-chip technology and other tissue models, that will give you the most replicable response and solutions for human alternative methods, basically. So, as a comment from Rodney, Alex, I don't support what you are saying. I feel your lack of education on the matter, one-sided, but you do, I support your tenacity. I mean, it's very simple. You don't need to have an extensive knowledge and information to realise that animals that we test on aren't humans. Therefore, it gives us inaccurate results, and that's shown in the statistics. 90 to 95% fail human clinical trials. And you don't need to have extensive research to know that we shouldn't put animals in cages, torture them, inject them with cancer cells. We know that is unethical, we know it's immoral, we know that animals don't need to die. And then finally, we don't need extensive knowledge and research to know that we have alternative methods. You know, companies like Accelerate and others around that provide solutions. So you don't need to have an extensive knowledge on the matter to know that we don't need to put animals in cages and torture them when, under the name of science, when we don't need to. And even if we did need to, we have humane alternatives. So there we go. You don't need to have extensive knowledge and research into the topic. And if you want to know more, you can do your own extensive research, you know, have a look. But I'm pretty sure if you just type in the University of Southampton and animal testing, and you can see the breakdown of the animals that are tested here every single year and realize how many animals die and suffer, that should be enough information that you need. So I'm scrolling to the bottom, stop ignoring my question. Again, like there's a lot of comments on this chat. It's very hard to pick up every question that's coming through. So you need to post some links. So there's some links on the petition. There should be some links linked to that. But otherwise, you know, look up a couple of good resources. If you go to Animal Aid's website and you go to a section on issues, animals in science, they've got an abundance of resources, statistics and information, leaflets, etc. to look at. You can look up Universities Challenge. It's a website that shows you all the different universities around the country of how many universities test on animals, what animals they test on. There's some really good resources. So yeah, there's lots of information out there and you can do your own research as well. What are you protesting now? So we're protesting Southampton University and we're asking them to ban animal testing. There's a petition in the link to this video. If you go to the 3 dots at the top of the screen, go to description, you can see the petition that we've got going today, and we want animal testing to be banned. It's unethical for 11,500 animals that die and are tested on in these laboratories. Yeah, we want to be against that. We want to raise awareness to all the students, the staff, that actually we don't need to do this to animals. Do you think your protest would make a difference? 100%. So behind me, obviously you can see all of the activists here. They are engaging all the students, staff, whoever's that walking past. They're giving them resources. They're giving them basically leaflets and information and educating them. And what we're doing by doing that is that then, you know, a large portion of the people that, you know, I've spoken to earlier, they do care. They think it's disgusting that the animal does that the university does this to animals. A lot of people don't realise what happens at their university on campus. And so yeah, about it being effective is that people then on those leaflets there's the email address of the Vice Chancellor, and you can email that Vice Chancellor and obviously show your support of getting animal testing banned. But we've also got the petition as well, that there's a screen there that people can sign the petition, and obviously you know how petitions work, that actually that then gets the attention of the university. So Rodney said, can you post a link to the research? I mean, I can't do it at the moment, but I can tell you this. If you look up University of Southampton and you type in animal testing, I think it's probably the first link will be from the university itself, so it's not some second source. This is directly given by the university, and you can see the breakdown of the animals being tested on per year. So you can look at 2024, 23, 22, 21. You can look at the severity of the animals being tested, the volume of animals, the different types of species, and this is all available information, public information on the website. And this is all information that has to be provided as well under the Freedom of Information Act. So if you're curious and you've got a local university, you can just send them a request under Freedom of Information. They have to provide you all the details that happens at that university. You know, I don't have all this information statistics right now on me of different universities, but you can get that information. Oh, awesome. Thanks, Jake, for posting that link. And yeah, if there's anyone else in the chat, Jake, Mel, Steve, if you have any links, please do post them. But as I said, Animal Aid have a great section on their website. If you go to Animal Aid's website, go to issues, and then animals in science, I'm sure that will redirect you to the right places and a lot of information of the different animals being tested on. If we don't test on animals, we are fucked. I mean, we're not. We have humane alternatives that exist. We have far more accurate and reliable responses that exist. I said look up a company called Accelerate. Maybe Jake or Mel, Steve, anyone in the chat could post this link as well. It's, yeah, I appreciate if you can. But yeah, either put the Animal Aid Animals in Science link in the chat, but also the link to the company called Accelerate. It's X and then cell R and then the number 8. That is a completely vegan company that never tests on animals, that have been funded to produce humane solutions. As I mentioned, there's a solution called AccuTox that replaced the LD50 test. Spamming the chat's just going to get you timed out, by the way. So yeah, I mean, there's lots of resources to go and do your own research. Like with anything, you know, you should be inquisitive. You should check out your own research. Yeah, thanks. I think that's right. Yeah, thanks, Mel and Steve, for putting the Accelerate. So yeah, that company is absolutely brilliant, funding non-animal research. They're a completely vegan company. And I guess from another perspective, like we're talking a lot about things like solutions for diseases, but we can also talk about cosmetics and animal testing on cosmetics. So in the UK, it's in theory, it's banned. There was an EU ban as well in 2013 to test final products and ingredients on animals for cosmetic purposes. However, there are loopholes that still exist, which, you know, I'm learning about this fairly recently, and you can do the same. So testing on cosmetics, they test final products and ingredients in different countries around the world. But let's say the product in the UK isn't tested on animals. If that product is then sold on a shelf in China, then that product in Chinese legislation means that that product has to be tested on in Chinese, that is Chinese legislation. So if you can look up on PETA's website or Cruelty-Free Kitty, you can type in a product and you can know if it is truly an ethical and cruelty-free company. So just because a product hasn't been tested on the UK, that product can be tested in other countries. But, you know, for example, Superdrug, all of Superdrug in the UK's own branded items are never tested and are completely cruelty-free. So you know that, you know, when you go into some, you know, health stores like Superdrug, you know, it will often say on the back of products whether it's got the cruelty-free bunny, and you know, if it's vegan, if it's cruelty-free, whatever it might be, or not, never tested on animals. So you can check out that on the back of cosmetics packaging, but know that for companies that don't list it, it's always good to do research on what that company does in other countries. And if that company sells physical products in China, those products, those cosmetic products, are tested on animals. And there's also another loophole with cosmetics testing, and the ingredients, if they're kind of industrial ingredients, there's a loophole in the regulation that allows them to test that ingredient on animals for under the worker and environment health legislation. So there's a loophole that cosmetic products can still be tested on through the loophole, but also if they're tested in other countries. So the best way to be sure is to Google it, look at Cruelty-Free Kitty, look at PETA's website, you type in a product name and you can know if a product is truly cruelty-free or not. And the cosmetics industry as well, like that's one industry. You've got the household products industry, you've got the drug and pharmaceutical industry. There's many industries that test on animals when it doesn't need to be done. And there's a great company in the UK, which you're probably aware of, called Lush. They are, you know, they are amazing. They speak up on a lot of injustices, you know, not even just animal rights, they speak up for human rights as well. But Lush are basically, you know, their ethos is ban animal testing, cruelty-free, and they've worked with some of these companies to help these solutions. So they've worked with Accelerate on developing humane alternative solutions. So yeah, hopefully this has been interesting. You know, I'm still going to keep live streaming, still going to keep answering some of the questions. You sponsored by Superdrug? No, I'm not. I'm not sponsored by Superdrug. But they're a good company in the fact that their own brand products aren't tested on animals, so good for them. The same as Lush. No, you're not sponsored by Lush either. Before you ask. But yeah, thanks again for the supportive comments and the people sort of answering the questions in the chat. Obviously, always get a lot of trolls in the chat, but any genuine questions and concerns, I'm happy to answer your questions on. And yeah, so for those that have recently joined at Southampton Uni, as you can see behind me, there's a lot of students and prospective students coming in to look at the campus, I guess, but also what we're doing by doing that is raising awareness of what is actually truly happening on their campus. The fact that animals are being killed in laboratories in the buildings next to them. So reading the bottom of the questions, where are you? So it's Southampton University. This is in the UK, and they test on 11,500 animals, predominantly mice. So thousands of them are mice. A small percentage are chicken embryos. A small percentage is fish, and a small percentage is also tadpoles at this university. But each university tests on different animals. So for example, Manchester, you go on their website, they've even got a video tour of their laboratories. Manchester University tests on a variety of animals. They even have sheep on site. They have, thousands of fish, rats, mice. So yeah, obviously, depending on where you are, if you're curious about your local university, check out the website Universities Challenged. And on the website, you can basically filter for which animals do and don't test, universities which do and don't test on animals. And you can also see a breakdown of what tests they do. But also it should be widely available on their website. And you can also get freedom of information requests to those websites as well. So yeah, any more comments or questions, please do try and put them through, trying to get through as many as possible. There's a comment here, animals should be treated with kindness too. Absolutely, 100% animals should be treated with kindness, respect, shouldn't be enslaved, put in cages and tortured on. No cruel testing. But out of curiosity, are you vegan? Curious to know. Yeah, so I'm just checking the link in the video description. So obviously, if it doesn't click as a link, just copy and paste the website. It's under the video description where it says sign the petition to ban animal testing at Southampton University. If you just copy and paste that and either click open link or put it into a browser, you can then go and sign that petition. So let me just scroll back up. Thanks for all the comments. So what is your reason on going against animal testing? For me, animal testing is crucial in experiment and research like GMO medical field. So firstly, from an ethical stance, animals shouldn't be treated as objects, commodities. They shouldn't be enslaved, put in cages and tortured on. But also, if we're talking about the context of research and in terms of like benefits, pros and cons, the fact that 90 to 95% of animal testing that passes animal tests fail in human clinical trials. And this is because the species of the animals we test on are different to the human species. As I said before, things that are toxic to humans might be fine for animals, but things that are fine and vice versa. So, drugs that failed animal testing, if we hadn't continued research and actually tried human tests on those, we would not have developed drugs because it failed the animal tests. And similarly, the scenario that I mentioned earlier, the fact that there was a population of animals that went through undergo a test, that it passed with flying colours, green lights, and that they then put into human clinical trials, population of, I think it was 6 humans who were fully fit and healthy, tested this substance, and in fact those 6 healthy humans now have all lifelong serious conditions. Some of the test subjects lost limbs, they lost fingers, they lost toes, they have respiratory problems. So the fact that 6 healthy humans are now having life-threatening conditions, even though it passed with flying colours of the animal test, which shows that animal testing is not needed, it's not valid, it's not required, and yeah, it should be banned. We don't need it. We've got humane alternatives. We can test on human tissue. That is the most replicable for humans because we're humans, right? You should test on human tissue for human solutions. The Empress, ban all animal testing, 100%. Doesn't need to be done. So yeah, we've got a petition and the link in this description. Sign the petition. Animal testing is should be no longer. It's an old traditional approach that isn't even validated. And you know, Remy, your comment, animal testing is needed. I've just explained it's not needed, it's not required, it's not valid, it fails anyway. So why on earth would we subject all these animals to torture? And again, all these people seem to believe that animal testing is definitely needed. It's not. We have humane alternatives. As I mentioned, organ on a chip, 3D models, computer models, human tissue. All these alternatives exist. Companies like Accelerate using Accutox have replaced the animal methods. And animal testing, the fact that most of it fails anyway, shows how redundant it is, such a waste of time, money, and animals' lives. Animal testing is not needed. And you can look up some of this factual data, look at reputable sources, peer-reviewed studies. You know, you can do your own research. So we can test on human tissue. We can test on organs given by consensual human beings. So, you know, if you're wanting data and statistics, if you go to Animal Aid's website, go to Animal Aid, go to their Issues tab, and then go to Animals and Science, you can look at a whole lot of research and information there. I'll just skip to the bottom of the chat. Yeah, if you could double tap the screen, massively helps the algorithm if you like this video. And if you're not already, please do subscribe to my channel. Yeah, again, it just massively helps get this video out to more and more people, and ultimately trying to get more people to see the realities of what happens to animals across multiple industries. So obviously I do live streams and videos, not just for speaking up for animal testing, speak up for all animal injustices. Yeah, so you know, you could tune in another day when I'll be standing outside a slaughterhouse and you can see animals that are going to be killed for food and drink and for clothing. And yeah, I guess like another way to phrase it is, if you were in their position, if you were put into a cage, if you were put into water to be injected with cancer cells, to be basically torn apart, to have your limbs taken from you, to be injected with substances, to give you life-threatening conditions, respiratory problems, you know, and also a lot of the animals are killed in experiments. If you look at the forced swim test, they literally try and see how long it takes for animals to give up and to drown. How would you feel if you were in their position? If you were in a cage in a laboratory right now and there was professors injecting you with cancer cells and ripping body parts from your body, would you want someone to be speaking up for you? Or would you want people to be saying, we have to do that, sorry, even though we know it's not necessary? Yeah, Jake, you put a very good comment. We test on cats and dogs as well. Yep, again, look this up, especially in the UK. We do test on cats and dogs in the UK. There's a place called MBR Acres. Give that a Google. MBR Acres, they breed 2,000 beagle puppies a year that are then sent to other laboratories for toxicology testing. And it is absolutely disgusting what they do to beagle puppies. And they use these animals because, specifically beagles, because they're the, in theory, the most sort of trusting and kind dogs, that they're not going to retaliate, and they take advantage of their kind nature. So if you're against the idea of dogs being killed in laboratories, what's the difference between a dog being killed in a laboratory or a cat versus a mouse or a fish, a rabbit, sheep, horses? There's a lot of horse testing going on in the UK as well. I have a sense it's going to start raining in a minute. Lovely. Yeah, Jake, rabbits are so sweet. Yeah, I mean, a lot of these animals, some people have these animals as pets, as companion animals. Rabbits that people are trusted members of the family. Same with rats, mice, dogs, cats. These animals that, you spend a lot of your days with. How would you feel if they were in a cage in a laboratory? And I guess this is also a slightly interesting situation, and the similarities and differences as well between animals that we consume for food, and that those industries are built on supply and demand. But a lot of the animal testing is funded by the governments, and we need to show the demand that, firstly, we don't want to use animals for testing, we don't need to. And we need to show that by the products we buy, yes, for things like cosmetics, but we need to show up in terms of speaking up to the universities and signing petitions to show there is a demand for not using animals. And we need to support these new companies like Accelerate that are, funding research into non-animal methods. We've got to do as much as we can with the choices that we can do. And as I said before, if you're against animal testing, if you think it's cruel and unkind, I'd like to think that you're vegan as well, and sharing those morals and values, across the board for food, drink, and clothing. Winston's back with the Cambridge University bollocks. If you keep commenting, I'll just block you again. I still don't understand what it is that your obsession with Cambridge University is. And I guess if I could phrase it differently, there's a lot of debate around, whether animal testing is needed or not, even though I've explained that the alternatives do exist. The alternatives like organ on chip, the 3D models, the computer models, the human tissues, the organ donations, all those alternatives do exist. But people are so brainwashed, and we're brought up to believe that animal testing is needed, even though 90 to 95% of animal tests that pass fail human clinical trials, because we are different species. We are not dogs, we are not mice. We have very different biologies and physiologies. So testing on mice that passes, but it will give us humans problems. So why would we not want to focus on the methods that are more valid, more reliable, and validated for human appropriate solutions? And as I said before, we as humans like chocolate, we eat chocolate, yet you give chocolate to a dog and that's toxic. We humans have paracetamol. You give paracetamol to a cat, that is toxic and can kill the cat. We as humans have penicillin, a human appropriate solution. You give penicillin to a guinea pig, that is toxic. And mice can't vomit. We're testing on species that don't have the same bodily reactions to us. The science and the research shows how bad and invalid animal testing is, how ineffective it is. And the fact that we have humane solutions instead. We have the humane solutions, and ultimately the focus today is on Southampton University. 11,500 animals that are being subject to testing. Thousands of those animals, the 90% at least are mice, are tested in laboratories here at Southampton University. And we're calling on a petition to ban animal testing at the university. We're calling on the Vice-Chancellor to make a proper decision to ban it, and we want these laboratories closed down because it's unethical, it's unnecessary, it's a waste of money, and it's a waste of research. In 2025, we should be looking at the cutting-edge technologies that prove that we have humane alternatives. We should be focusing on that. You have sold me on this, dude. I will parrot this information as much as I can. That's brilliant. Thank you for your support. But also, you said I don't know if you can stop eating meat. There's a link in my video description as well to a 3-minute movie challenge just below the petition. If you go to the 3 dots and hit description, I'd urge you to watch that 3-minute movie and then maybe pop back into the chat and see what your thoughts are on that. I'm just going to grab an umbrella because it's starting to rain. Greetings. Hello, hello, hello. I just need to grab my umbrella because it's going to start chucking it down. But getting everyone to sign your petition. I hope the numbers are getting up. Hopefully, there's people are signing. I'm still live at the moment. Yeah. So yeah, trying to educate them on animal testing, and yeah, hopefully the petition numbers are going up. There's a lot of people who said I've signed it. So
They haven't so far.
oh, the numbers gone up.
Unless
It's on 686 now.
That's
yeah,
good.
it's only gone up 2 in the last 45 minutes.
I thought it was on 677 at the start of the day.
When we started, it was 678.
Yeah.
Got like 100 today. That's good.
So you need to up the ante.
All right, challenge accepted. Right, so back with the umbrella. So yeah, as I said, we're here to basically educate on animal testing, but we're asking students and staff to basically get animal testing banned at Southampton Uni. And you know, if you really do care about animal testing, and please sign the petition. There's a link in the description. If you go to the 3 dots at the top of the chat, please do sign that petition. We need the numbers up. At the moment, you know, not many people have signed, so we really need those numbers up. It takes you, you know, what, 1 minute to just copy and paste the link or click the link in the video description, and yeah, just sign that petition. We need those numbers up. We need the university to actually take acknowledgement of it. And if you're against animal testing, you know, don't just think, oh, other people will sign the petition. We need you to sign that petition. We need every individual possible to sign that petition. So please do go to the video description, hit the 3 dots, hit the description, and if it doesn't click as a link, just copy and paste that link into a browser or hit open link, and it'll take you to the petition page. We need Southampton University to ban animal testing. So yeah, I've just scrolled to the bottom of the chat. Thanks everyone who's putting all the kind comments in, the supportive comments. Just jump to the bottom. So if there's any questions that I've missed, feel free to yeah, put them in the chat and I'll try and help you. That was a great question. Is it raining? No, I just like standing with an umbrella. It's fun. Oh, Winston, you're back again. You're always talking about universities. I mean, I'm pretty sure today's probably the first time I've been talking about universities, but yeah, I'll talk about a lot about universities today. So 50%, over 50% of all testing that happens on animals occurs at universities in the UK. So here at Southampton Uni, 11,500 individuals, 11,500 animals are tested on in the name of science and experiments. And bear in mind that these are not legally required, they're not mandated, they're not regulated tests. These are tests to satisfy the researcher, they're to satisfy the professor, the students, into basically testing out a hypothesis. Make sure my equipment's not getting too wet. So yeah, as I've mentioned before, we have humane alternatives that exist for animal tests. We've got organ-on-chip technology, which can be broken down into individual organs or multiple organs. So you've got lung on a chip, gut on a chip, but you can get a hybrid of those organs to mimic the bodily cells. So yeah, please do sign that petition. We need those numbers up. You know, we haven't had many signatures on that so far, so we need as many people as possible. If you're against what we do to animals in the testing industry, please do sign that petition. You don't have to be from Southampton. Please just go to the video description, hit the 3 dots at the top of the screen, go to description, copy and paste that link into your browser where it says ban the animal testing at Southampton University. We need that petition number to go up. Rain has stopped. Where in Southampton are you? Obviously, we're at Southampton University. If you're around, please do come down, come and support us, come and question us, come and ask us questions. We'll, you know, be more than happy to address them in person. What information do you want, Open Ocean? I just saw that you said you're leaving. Sorry if I've missed any of your questions, Open Up, earlier on. Oh, sorry, what animals do they test on? So primarily mice. So large, over 90% of the testing here at the University of Southampton is mice. But they also test on fish, they also test on chicken embryos, and they also test on tadpoles. And all this information is available. If you type in University of Southampton animal testing, you can see a breakdown split by the species, the number of tests, the severity of those tests. You can see which animals come away with moderate and severe illnesses and conditions, and how many animals die. That information is public information, and it's listed on their website. And if there's a university near you and it's not listed on their website, it should be, but you can also request this information via the Freedom of Information Act. So yeah, thousands and thousands of the university experiments are done on mice here. And hundreds of those die, and that was just in 2024. Yeah, so in terms of the percentage of animals tested at this university, it's over 90% of those animals are mice. So yeah, if you're against animal testing, please do sign that petition. Petition in the video description. We want a ban on animal testing across the world, but specifically the petition is for Southampton University. What do you advise they test on instead? So as I mentioned, there's humane, ethical alternatives that don't involve animals. So we have organ-on-chip technology, we have 3D models, we have computer simulations and computer software, and we have human tissues, human organs. We can test and mimic human cells that give us human-related solutions. We don't need to test on animals who are different species, because ultimately 90 to 95% of those tests fail human clinical trials anyway. So we know it's unnecessary, we know it doesn't need to be done. So we can advocate for the humane alternatives. And knowing that the government is responsible for funding a lot of that in terms of the testing that happens in the country, but also the fact that this is like the universities, and this is just experimental studies, this is experimental research. Yes, comment from the Empress, why are you pro-animal abuse, weirdo? There's a lot of people that seem to just love abusing animals. They seem to love torturing animals in this chat. It's kind of disgusting the fact that this many people would do that to animals. Look forward to you interviewing a scientist. I'd happily interview a scientist. bring it on, bring it on. You know, there's a lot of events coming up in London actually that are talking through these exact issues. There's a few events called New Scientist Live, and some others in London that are specifically events talking about the research and the technology that exists nowadays into non-animal methods, so new alternative methods that are non-animal methods for scientific research and scientific studies and testing that isn't on animals. And this is where a lot of scientists will go to, because a lot of these tests are, the LD50 test, for example, that's nearly 100 years old. In 2027, that test will now be 100 years old, the lethal dose test. So the fact, you know, in 100 years, we're still using the same thing, doesn't show how far we have progressed as a society. So a lot of scientists that use traditional techniques will be attending these New Scientist Live events in London so they can understand the new technology and the new solutions that do exist. Testing solutions that don't involve animals, that are more validated, that are more ethical, and basically better for human solutions. So yeah, please do sign that petition in the video description. Just hit the 3 dots, go to description and sign the petition. We want Southampton University to ban animal testing. Thanks Jake, thanks Mel and Steve for your continued support, really appreciate that. So yeah, another thing obviously you can do is to basically email your local university, email the Vice-Chancellor, email their research unit and just let them know that you're against animal testing, give them the solutions, tell them that there are non-animal methods that do exist today. Right, I've just skipped to the bottom, so apologies if I missed any questions. There's a comment there about skipping your question. I haven't intentionally skipped any questions. As you know, I'm responding to as many as possible. And yeah, I mean, there's a question there about feeding mice and rats. Bear in mind that animals are bred for experiments, they're bred for food. Animals are brought into this planet, into existence for human oppression and exploitation. They are bred into society for food. And yeah, like in these laboratories, they're genetically bred even. They're genetically bred to try and mimic Alzheimer's diseases and other diseases. But knowing that 95% of those tests are going to fail in human clinical trials anyway. They are bred with these horrendous diseases. They're injected with cancer cells. They're have their limbs taken from them. And ultimately they're killed in these experiments. So if you really care about food or animals, you would be vegan. What's your questions, Winston? If it's about Cambridge Uni, I'm not going to answer it because it's ridiculous, because I don't even know what you're on about. I didn't go to Cambridge Uni, but happy to address a proper question. Comment here, I will become vegan the day lions and other predators become vegan. So, well, in that case, have you ever looked into the animal kingdom and which animals eat other animals, which don't? You know, look at the biggest and strongest animals in the animal kingdom. They are herbivorous, they eat plants. Look at the rhinos, the hippos. Yeah, they don't hunt gazelles, but everyone loves to pick up the lion or tiger situation, don't they? See you later, good to see you. Hey Jasmine, thanks for the comment. And a lot of this information as well, it's not even like you need to be studying this area for decades. This is just plain and simple information. 9 out of 10 tests on animals fail human clinical trials. Pretty obvious how ineffective and inefficient that is. And it's pretty straightforward to understand that we have non-animal alternative methods that exist. We have humane, ethical methods that use human tissues, far more reliable for human-related solutions. Okay, Winston, if that was what you're banging on about a question for and you're talking about the space race, I'm not willing to answer any more of your questions because they're always absolutely off topic and ridiculous. But I won't block you yet, you can stay in the chat. So yeah, for anyone else that's just joined, obviously we've got activists here today. They're standing with placards, with leaflets, and we're basically engaging all the students that are going past and basically giving them information on the animal testing that happens at Southampton University. And we're asking them to sign the petition. We're giving them leaflets with information specifically about what they do in Southampton, and basically trying to get people to email the Vice-Chancellor to get animal testing banned at the university. And we're also getting obviously people to sign the petition. And once again, if you haven't already signed, please hit the 3 dots at the top of this video, go to the video description, and there's a section, there's a link to the petition. If you copy and paste that link into a browser, you can sign that petition. It'll take you 20 seconds, but that 20 seconds is so important, and it's so important that everyone does sign this petition, because often with petitions you think, oh, someone else will probably sign it, they'll already have enough people. We need more and more people. We don't have enough signatures on that petition yet. We need everyone in this live stream to sign that petition. Go to the video description, hit the 3 dots, go to description, and copy and paste that petition link into your browser. Open that link if it doesn't click straight away. Please do sign that petition. It's really, really important. And whilst you're clicking out of it, you could also subscribe and help get this video to more and more people. As I said earlier, this video hit the room capacity again, which means that the video isn't being shown to more and more people. So we want as many people to realise what's happening on the ground when we're talking about animal injustices. Specifically today, we're talking about animal testing. Right, I've just skipped back to the bottom of the chat. Winston, you don't give up, do you? It does make me laugh. So, yeah, animal testing. It's stuff that you can research online. Obviously, look at peer-reviewed, properly backed studies. But yeah, look at what happens to animals, what we do in laboratories here in the UK. Go to the website called Universities Challenged. Universities Challenged. It has a map of all the universities in the UK, and you can check out if your local university or a university you went to or are interested in, if they test on animals. And you can filter by the ones that do and don't test on animals. And for those that do, for example, Southampton, you can click on that university on the map and it will tell you what animal tests they do. And Southampton specifically, if you type in on Google, University of Southampton animal tests, you can see exactly what tests they do to animals. You can see a breakdown of the species they test on. Primarily there's thousands of mice here, but also fish, tadpoles, chicken embryos. And you can see how many of those animals testing result in the level indicator of outcome in terms of severity. So if the testing resulted in a moderate, severe, or fatalities, how many animals died in the testing. Animal testing should be banned. Animal testing doesn't need to exist. It's inefficient. The fact that we're like, oh, what alternatives we have? We might not. We need animal testing. The fact that it was never validated in the first place. 95% of them fail human clinical trials because they're different species to us. We should be testing on human cell tissue because that is the most replicable for human solutions. But yeah, if you've got any questions, please do put them into the chat. And yeah, once again, please do sign the petition. It's really helpful if you can do that. Make sure the live stream's still going. Hasn't cut out on me like it did yesterday. But yeah, if you're in, can I come join? If you're in Southampton, please do come down. We're here all day. You know, we've got all the volunteers with placards and signs. We're here all day engaging students. So yeah, come down, come debate us if you want to. But yeah, we'll give you some information about what we're doing, what the university does to animals, with the testing they do on animals, and the fact it's no longer needed. Just scroll back to the bottom of the chat. So yeah, and once I said, like, if you're against animal testing, I'd ask you, are you vegan as well? You know, does your compassion for animals extend to all forms of the exploitation that happens in the world and the choices that we make as individuals? If you're against animals being caged and tortured and killed in laboratories, are you also against animals that are being forced into slaughterhouses and killed for food and drink and leather and whatever other horrible industries? Are you also against animals being used in entertainment? Are you against horse racing, greyhound racing, aquariums, zoos, circuses? Are you against all those things as well? Because the fact is that we don't need to test on animals. We don't need to exploit animals. We don't need to objectify and commodify them for anything. We don't need it for testing. We don't need it for food. We don't need it for clothing. We don't need it for entertainment. Because if you were in their position, how would you feel as an individual? These are all individuals that have the capacity to feel pain, to feel suffering, to have subjective experiences, that have families. If you were in their position, I'm pretty sure you'd want someone to speak up for you as well. But yeah, also in the video description obviously is that petition, but there's also some other resources. If you click the 3 dots and go to the description, I'd highly recommend watching the 3-minute movie challenge at 3minutes.wtf. Go and watch that video and it will change your life in just 3 minutes. If you can watch this stream, you can go and watch a 3-minute movie challenge. But yeah, any questions you've got about animal testing or animals in general, please do put them into the chat and I will do my best to respond to the comments. So Navy Bones put, I watched the challenge and it was challenging. Did you watch the 3-minute movie challenge? And if you did, how did you feel after watching that? And if you could double tap the screen, that massively helps the algorithm. And also if you subscribe to my channel, you can see more of this content. I'll be doing a lot more live stream content at various places, outside slaughterhouses and things like that, and street debates. So yeah, appreciate any subscriptions as well. And you can see more of this content and it hopefully gets this video out to more and more people. We need more and more people to wake up and realize what we do to animals is wrong. Comment here, have you seen any animal testing in person? I mean, I'm not a scientist and I don't work in a laboratory, but I've seen many undercover investigations. I've seen videos of what happens, but a lot of this information is publicly available. You know, there's a lot, the industries don't deny what they do to animals. Like I said, if you type in University of Southampton animal testing, the first result will show you the breakdown of the testing that happened here, and it shows you the severity of the outcomes. It shows you how many animals have died in this testing. You know, you don't need to see what happens to the animals to know that they're being killed and tortured and inserted with cancers and other diseases. So yeah, obviously we're getting to a fairly busy stage. You might not look behind, but there's a lot of people around the square in front. We're right on campus at the University of Southampton. It's an open day today, so there's a lot of prospective students, there's staff, there's current students all on campus. And yeah, we're basically trying to engage them in conversation and get to have as many conversations as possible about the issue of animal testing. And if you're against animal testing, please do go to the link in this description and sign the petition. Please do sign the petition. Can't emphasize this enough. We need that number up. It's, you know, we're not on anywhere near where we need to be on this petition yet. I know it's a fairly new one, but we need more and more people to sign it. So everyone in this live stream, please do go to the 3 dots, go to the description and sign that petition for Southampton to ban animal testing. It takes you 20 seconds and, you know, it doesn't affect your lives, but what it does do is save the animals' lives here. It's the least that you can do. So comment here, well, why do you want to impose your lifestyle on others? If you don't want to eat animal, you're free to do it. And I'm free to eat meat. People don't like when they're told what to do. So the issue with that, and it's a very dangerous statement, is I should do what I want to do, because there's victims in that situation. The fact that you're forcing your beliefs and your decisions onto others. You're forcing cows and sheep and chickens and pigs into gas chambers and slaughterhouses for your choices. So how do they feel? What about their choice? What about their freedom? You're taking that right from them. You're saying you're just an object, you're just food. And that's a very dangerous mentality to have, in that we should do what we want to do, because if you extend that that logic to other situations, oh, I should do it because I want to do it, there's a lot of things in this society that would be pretty disgusting just because people want to do it. You know, it shouldn't be legal. Comment here, dude, if we don't test on animals, who do we test on? So as I mentioned, there's humane alternatives that exist that don't include animals. We can test on human cells and human tissue. We can get organ-on-chip technology now, which basically mimics the organs like a lung, and you can get that basically on a chip with human cells, and that will replicate and simulate animal tests. And there's that technology, there's 3D modeling. We've also got computer simulations and computer modeling. You know, we're in 2025 now. We've got far better simulations and testing than testing old, inefficient, traditional ways that we tested on animals. But yeah, and also, like, you can donate your organs, you can donate tissues to a tissue bank and use that for research, because we, the human species, should be testing on human species to get reliable and validated results, not testing on mice and drowning mice in water and rats in water for the sake of an experiment, an unregulated, you know, unmandated experiment. And if you're against that, you know, if you're against mice, dogs, cats, horses, all these animals get tested on here in the UK. They're injected with diseases, they're genetically modified to try and replicate human diseases. They end up with lifelong health conditions, respiratory problems, and they also end up dying in these experiments. They take their limbs from them and they're drowned or killed in these experiments. And these are unnecessary experiments. So if you're against that, please sign the petition. Please go to the video description, hit the 3 dots, go to description and hit the link, ban animal testing at Southampton University. If it doesn't click as a link, just copy and paste it and put it to your browser. It'll take you 20 seconds and the animals really need you to do that. There's a question here, are the animals being tested on in danger of being, are the animals being tested on being in danger of extinction? I mean, it's an irrelevant question, really, if they're threatened extinction or not. You know, animals are being tested on in laboratories, they're being genetically bred and genetically modified, and they're going through torturous tests. Whether they're threatening extinction or not, that's not a justification if they're likely to go extinct or not. Those are individuals, they are individuals, they're someones, they're not some things, they're individuals with the capacity to feel pain, feel suffering, have families. So regardless if they're facing extinction or not, we shouldn't do it. It's unethical, it's immoral, and it should be banned. So sign that petition, get animal testing banned at Southampton University. You know, if I check the petition now, yeah, we need more signatures, more signatures. If you're in this live stream, please do go to the link in my description. We don't have enough people signing it. You know, that number has not increased as much as I had wanted, but as much as the animals need you to. 11,500 animals are being tested on here at Southampton University, and that was in 2024. 11,500 animals that need your help and your support. It's completely free, it's just signing a petition. All you have to do is fill out a couple of boxes and it's done, and all that does is just a petition like anything else. That's the least that you can do to support these animals. And yeah, thanks Jake for signing the petition. I think I've just seen your name come through, so I really appreciate that. And yeah, we need more people like you, Jake, speaking up on behalf of the animals. And yeah, I really appreciate your support in the comments. You know, it massively helps. You know, there's a lot of comments that come through on live streams, and it's really important to try and obviously answer a lot of the questions that people have. But yeah, and try and respond. But it's good to see, you know, supportive faces in the chat. So there's a comment here, I'm against pointless testing. And about the chance for animals to live longer as pets. So again, like the way that that question is framed is, again, it's very much this sort of mentality around, oh, if we're having pets, like again, like we don't need to try and think about animals as something for us. You know, animals want to live and be free. We don't need to you know, objectify, and the pet trade is horrendous, by the way. Have a look at the pet trade. There's a campaign going at the moment called Rescue Not Retail. All the animals out there that need support, and the fact that animal testing is invalid just shows you how irrelevant and how unethical it really is. We can ban animal tests and we'd be absolutely fine. We have non-animal new approach methodologies that exist. I've given you the solutions on this live stream earlier. We've got organ-on-a-chip technology, we've got 3D models, computer simulations, human tissues. We have companies like Accelerate who have developed solutions such as AccuTox, which replace the LD50 test as an example from a previous animal test to a humane ethical test. So, you know, we need to call upon the government, we need to call upon the universities to ban animal testing. And yeah, when you're making decisions in shops, you know, always look for that cruelty-free logo on the back of products for like cosmetics. And, you know, support companies like Lush. You know, they're trailblazers in terms of, you know, really being ethical and trying to stand up and speak for an injustice such as animal testing. So, yeah. Thanks for the questions, but yeah, please do just subscribe to this channel. You know, it gets this video out to more and more people, which again is really important. So yeah, so if you're not already subscribed, like this video, and yeah, please do sign that petition in the video description. It's so important. Just hit the 3 dots, go to the petition, and call upon Southampton Uni to ban animal testing. That's all you need to do. Just click the link in the description. But yeah, thanks to Jake, thanks Mel and Steve, thanks Jasmine, thanks everyone else that's joined in the comments. Appreciate your questions. You know, follow me on socials, alex.activism. If you have genuine questions, if it's about animal testing, basically drop me a message. No, I'm not sponsored by Lush or Superdrug, as I mentioned earlier. I'm not sponsored by anyone. Here to speak up for the animals, the 11,500 animals that die here on campus at Southampton University. So yeah, please do drop me questions. Like if you're genuinely concerned or have questions about what we do to animals for testing and for other industries as well, you know, about being vegan, just drop me a message in my DMs. I'm happy to help and support people and debunk and provide you resources. Patrick, you said I've had loads of questions, you ignored them. Send them to me via DM if I've missed them. You know, there's so many comments coming through, and I don't know if Jake or Mel and Steve or anyone's been responding to those questions. You know, it's very hard to keep up. But all I'd say is sign that petition, yeah, subscribe, and yeah, drop me a message via DM, and I'd happily answer your questions. But yeah, thanks Mel and Steve, thanks Jake, thanks everyone else, Jasmine, Jake, for all your support on this chat. And yeah, catch me very soon. I'll be outside a slaughterhouse very shortly, not today, but another day soon. And yeah, you can see exactly what happens to animals for food and other consumption. So yeah, thanks for being on, and yeah, see you on the next one. Appreciate your support.